Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Ignite Your Heart and Souls. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest, who's been here before because he has such beautiful spiritual wings, is Brian Foster. We're going to be talking about his numerous books on spirituality, but also on why sometimes it's so difficult for people to step into this spirituality. You may have started believing and you believe in the philosophy, but the flexibility of being able to go with the wind, be in the now, not really know what's going to happen tomorrow can be very hard for some people. So why is it like that? Why does the spirit world work like that? And how can we adjust to it and step out of our humanoidness and step into our spiritualism and understand what the journey means for us? He's an avid writer, many books. He has a wonderful blog and YouTube and everything else that he does all around understanding spirituality. And I know it can be rather daunting, can't it? You don't need to know everything. You just need to know enough to trust the knowledge that you're given and to step into that knowingness and that now and trust that knowledge and don't second guess it. Out of the mind, into the heart and soul. Welcome back, Brian.
Oh, welcome. Thank you.
So a delight to have you back again.
Oh, it's wonderful to be with you.
So spiritualism.
Right.
It's still kind of one of those words, isn't it, where some people go, no.
You know.
You've been immersed into it for a long time now, and you teach it, you show people how to understand it, where it really comes from, the baseline of it, how to live in it. So where would you like to start today?
Well, I think you had a great introduction as far as, what everything is unknown. It's so amorphous, and there's one main reason for all of this seemingly chaos around us, and it's called free will.
Yeah.
it's the reason. Look, if our life could be completely planned out, if God wanted to make us all perfect, we'd be like ants.
Yes.
And we'd all be the same. But what the spirit world is letting us be is we will all rise to be, perfected souls eventually in some, millions of years hence. But we're all going to be in our own unique way. And since we're all going to be in our own unique way, we all must have to learn the hard lessons. Be honest, be charitable, be fraternal, etc. I mean,
yeah. A hard one for people, isn't it? I think at the present moment, what we're looking at is people stepping into, there's so much anxiety, there's so much angst, there's so much anger going on at the present moment. And I kind of look at what I call the Trumpster platform at the present moment, a lesson. It's a lesson on how humanity can be the worst it can possibly be, which is an invitation for us to rise up to be the very best we know we can be. And that's stepping into love, kindness, and caring, which is the spiritual way.
Exactly. And I tell people, and people are, upset, for or against whoever, right? Is you just have to step back and know that the politics is such a short time frame. It's not, I mean, yes, I understand it's important, but if you're on the 10,000 foot level looking down at one of your many lives, it's not that important. Now, it's much easier for me to say that than for people to live it. I totally understand. But it's like you just said, it's a lesson, right? We're here to look.
Yeah. And I think we're here as a test. I think everything about spirituality is living in a state of beingness, of authenticity, in heart, soul, spirit to mind connection. And I think it's very easy to take up the pitchfork. We've seen this in history over and over again. I disagree with you. And there it goes. And, what we're actually inviting people to do right now is share your perspective on life, on spiritualism, on love, on everything. And even though we may say it from a different language or different words, from a different perspective, fundamentally, we're all saying the same thing, aren't we?
Exactly. And we are. And we just need to learn to, accept many things. I think the
Mm.
spirit Joanna de Angelis is in some of her books, psychographed by Devaldo Franco. She said, you really need kind of, to do this. You need to five things. You need love, goodness, compassion, uh, faith in your future as set by the spirit world, and gratitude.
Yes. Big one on the gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude that we're here. It's like a driver's license.
Hmm. Hmm.
We're not owed a life on Earth, right? We have
Right.
to earn it.
Right. Right. Yes.
And
Yes.
I think one of the things people need to understand is that we're not put on this earth into this chaos and like we're a baby just abandoned. There is a whole support structure around it. And in fact, when you first contacted me, this a couple of weeks ago, it was because you'd watched the video Spiritual Contracts.
Right. Right.
And we all, I'm sure it's unbeknownst to almost all of us, it was unbeknownst to me for many, many, most of my life, is we have a plan. And actually, most of us, not all of us, most of us partake in that plan, right? We helped create
Mhm.
that plan for us for the lessons we so sorely needed. Now, it may not seem like that at the time.
Yeah.
Like, why did I do this? Right? Why did I do this?
Yes.
But
Yeah. Yeah. We don't realize the soul contract. It's our past life is coming back to unfinished business or resolve something or of next level of teachings. And we've already written that soul contract to know what we're coming back here to do. And then we step into the human self, and the human then has to kind of, in partnership with our spirit,
right,
get on and do it. And, for me, most certainly this lifetime is going back into my soul purpose,
right,
which I've had for thousands of years, but in the last apparently 50 or more years, a little bit of persecution went on, and it kind of dampened my soul and my spirit, and I had to recover from that. And this is what this lifetime's been about: stepping back into that purpose. Because also we also have to wait for the timing to be right, which is really right now. But I think we fight it, don't we? We fight it so much as human beings of like, but no, we're expected to do A, B, and C, and I need to be in control of my life. I need to follow a manual. You have no control. There is no manual. And when you learn to go with the flow and trust yourself from the inside out, now you've actually got a plan.
exactly. And now I want to explore what you said. When you said there's persecution in life, were
Mm.
you persecuted or did you do the persecution?
No, I was from past life experts that have worked on me. I literally was the torn and quartered and drowned and burnt at the stake and all of that. I've always been a soul teacher in my entire lifetimes, and I was up against that Inquisition time where what I was doing was a witch and all of that. So I was persecuted, and so this was me feeling safe enough to come back into my soul purpose
Right.
without the fear of persecution in this lifetime.
Well, interesting, because I was told in the mediums meeting, and communication spirits that I was almost the opposite. I was in positions of power,
Mm-hmm.
and I took advantage. Instead of helping people, I took their money.
Oh, naughty boy.
I know. And that's why it's really interesting. I finally understood that because, I've worked for companies before. When companies get bought out, you usually get a big bonus, right? And I've had that 2 times. And each time I didn't do anything I thought was stupid, but I lost everything, right?
Mm,
And I finally understood, well, of course, I'm not allowed to have a lot of money this life because I don't deserve it. I have to
right.
learn to,
Yes.
live simply,
Be
learn.
worthy again.
Yes, be worthy again.
Yeah.
And it's an example, I think we both said,
Yes.
is how our past lives influence our present life, and that predetermination. So we do have free will. And some people say, well, everything's predetermined. You don't have free will. Well, yes, we do. We have
Yes.
free will in our attitude, the lessons we learn, the choices we make within those trials. Now, as you go higher and higher in higher level planets, the ranges are much more broad. You can start planning out in an incarnation, your future and so forth. So right now we're still in this kind of immature level,
Yeah.
and our lesson is planned for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I always refer to as to simplify things at the present moment, third, fourth, or fifth dimension. Third dimension is the anger, the hate, the fear, the people that have chosen that energy. Fourth dimension of people are waking up saying, no, I don't like this. My conscious is waking up. My heart is waking up. There must be something more. And they're walking towards that. Fifth dimension of people that have already woken up and they're there to help the people. And now we're actually opening up to the sixth and seventh dimension and realizing the wonderful beautiful energies that come not in a human package, that aren't so easily categorized, and that we're realizing we're so much more. We've quantumized our thinking now. So
Yes.
I think what we're seeing is such a movement now to embracing spirituality. As one scientist said, that we realized that spirituality, when you measure the energy of people that live in spirit, they are resonating on a quantum frequency, a
Yeah.
higher energy.
Yeah.
And scientists are beginning to understand spirituality isn't this kumbaya thing. It is a higher plane of frequency that invites people and resonates in goodwill.
Exactly. People use the word vibration. It's
Mm-hmm.
all, and that's all valid. And,
Uh,
and what Spiritism tells us is that when there's enough of us, we're all connected. And
mm-hmm.
when there's enough of us on the same frequency, the same vibration, the whole earth will then become up
Yes.
to the next level.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it will take a majority of us to
Yeah.
get there, right? And look, we're all like little grains of sand. And everyone says, well,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do? Well, but enough grains of sand get together and,
Yeah.
they can make something.
Yeah. The ocean was made up of a lot of drops,
That's
and
right.
the thing is the in it together. I think for a long time, community was really important. It took a village to raise a child, and people understood the importance of keeping the village strong by helping everybody out. And then we went into this insular, me, my world, and I don't trust my neighbors, and I'm not going to speak to anyone. And now, of course, we're into I'll text everybody and not acknowledge a human being around me. But other people are going, I can't live like this. I need a community. I need human interaction. I need people I can talk spirit to, understand what I'm going through and share with. And I think we're seeing a massive shift in that direction right now. And I think it's only basically through kind of the podcast and the background medium that is coming to light, not the mainstream medium.
I totally agree. And, the internet is like you
Yeah.
said,
Mm-hmm.
there's good and bad to it.
Yes.
And bad is we're all inundated with commercials and propaganda and the quest for
Bad
more,
news. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But then the good news is people like you, right? We're talking, and it's really interesting when you see that, more of the millennials seem to be more spiritual
Yeah.
in a tiny house. It's all about, the reluctancy of material goods.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're right. At the spirit world, it sends us waves of emotion of
Mm-hmm.
collective action, and I think a lot of that is that. And in Spiritism, say, we are on the beginning of
Yeah.
becoming a higher planet, and these waves of emotion will wash over us, and hopefully, it will make us even more incentivized to become
Yeah.
exactly what you want us to be. And that
Yes.
is more spiritual, more caring and loving. And we don't have to have that BMW in the garage. We don't have to have
Right.
that first, right?
Right.
We live
Right.
with
And but it's also, a lot of people think that, oh, if you go spiritual, you've got to live in poverty and struggle. No, you don't. I'm saying be as rich as you want. I don't care. What you do with the money and how you seed other opportunities is where the consciousness lies. Money itself is just a tool. If you can put that tool to work where it enables other things happening, education or water for a country or feeding the children or rescuing the children, whatever it is, be rich, but take a good chunk of that money and reinvest it back into your community, into something, because that's where you really see the wealth grow. It's not about the money. It's about what you do with the money that enriches lives that really counts.
You are absolutely right. In fact, in one of the spiritualist books, On the Way to Light, they're saying money, the capitalism and money's there to create good infrastructure projects and to help people. And that the spirits even say the same thing. It's okay to be rich, but
Yes.
how did you get rich? Did you treat your
Yes.
employees honestly,
Mm-hmm.
right? Did you treat your consumers and clients honestly?
Yeah.
If you did that, and if you want a big house and multiple cars, more power to you. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's exactly as you said. It's how you use it, and you just have to look at it as that money I have is a gift, and I need to use it wisely and with love
And responsibility.
and responsibility.
And the
Exactly.
thing about the responsibility is is nobody got rich unless they won the lotto. Nobody got rich um, on their own. It was always on the backs of others. And if
Yeah.
you can turn around and enrich those people in gratitude for their participation, and then be responsible about seeding opportunities for others, I think the wealthy man is not the man with most money in the bank. It's the man that is most enriched and enriching, and that uses that money wisely.
Well, you're absolutely right. And in fact, as we're told many times, I'm sure you've seen this from your own communications, is there are so many rich spiritual people on earth that we don't even know about. I mean,
Right.
they are so much. And actually, what we've been told is when people come here on trials, right, in their tribulations, and their is the hardest trial there is, really, is to come here and be rich.
Mm,
Because when you are rich,
the
you are
test.
allowed to do all sorts of things, right? People, will put up with anything you do. You can be rude to people, etc. And it's
Mm,
really, that is one of the toughest things you can be here. And look how many people are rich that just treat other people like garbage. And then
yeah.
there's a few people that are just always still humble and nice, and they're the ones that can be extremely
Right.
victorious.
Right.
Now, I wasn't one of those, and I was told in my past life I was.
Right.
So hopefully I'll be, another time. But exactly. I mean, it's difficult.
Apparently, I signed a vow of poverty 50 lifetimes ago. Since I've discovered that, I've obliterated it, blown it up,
Well,
drowned it, done everything I can to make sure that that contract is absolutely none involved.
I think that's why you're such a higher level than I am. See, I'm just learning. I'm a supplicant.
But still struggling in this world. And the thing I think what we're looking at is a sense of conscience, isn't it? It's my mum used to say to me, do unto others as you would hope people would do unto you. Well, I don't want to be treated nasty, so why am I going to treat someone else nasty? If I show them kindness, it's that kindness in return. So I think that's the importance is actually understanding the authenticity, the ethics, the gratitude, the responsibility. These are words that we use in business, in ethics of life, but the same words that we use in our spirituality. Those same rules apply.
They are, yeah, and
Excuse me.
they are forever, right? They're eternal.
Yeah.
Those rules are eternal.
Yes.
And that's what actually. So people say, "What? So why do bad things have to happen to me?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's exactly what you said. Those rules apply, but what that means is we have to alter our personality to internalize and put those rules in our heart.
Yes.
And you hear many times is pain, suffering is the great teacher,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that you have to remove these blemishes from your personality and replace them with better, more noble pursuits, right? And
Mm-hmm.
look, we had a lot of primitive emotions. There's anger, right?
Yeah.
We need to learn to not let anger. We can be indignant, right? We can focus our energy. It
Yes.
doesn't mean we
Yeah.
have to be pushovers and say, "Oh yeah, you can slap me around or you can cheat me." No, you can be indignant and say, "No, that person needs to go to jail." But you just don't lose don't hate that person. Just recognize that person as a more immature spirit
Yeah.
who's got a lot to learn. You don't have
Yeah.
to hate that person who did that.
No, I mean, you can hold people accountable.
Exactly.
I'm holding you accountable for that action. I'm asking you to take responsibility. I'm asking you to step into compassion and humanity. And I can be outraged by it, but you don't bring out the pitchforks or the guns, and you don't
Right.
turn court of the guy, because then you are that guy, right?
Exactly. And that's the problem we have. Like as you started our discussion with all the politics and everything.
Mm.
Look, the end doesn't justify the
No.
mean. The means justify the end. And
I think
that
the reason we're seeing so many kind of superhero movies and things is that we see the baddie get killed off, and we see all of that frustration. And I think for a lot of people, oh, it's so violent, but I think there is violence in us as human beings, because part of that was our survival skills. And I think
exactly
by watching the superhero movies and seeing the baddie get the day, and the good people fight for the people, that's something that we want to find in ourselves, and vicariously, we live through those superheroes, and like the killing of the bad people is something that we do in emotion that way, because we know we can't do it physically. So I think a lot of the reason why these movies is we're looking for those superheroes, and one thing we forget to notice is we are the superhero, right?
right. Yep. And that's really an interesting point because if we look at the high spirits that have come to earth, Jesus, Socrates, Buddha, Confucius, right? And and then we look at the hero movies where, superhero, well, as you say, they will kill the enemy, right? But the high spirits that come here, they don't do that.
Right.
And so how does the spirit world fight evil?
Yeah.
Well, they use evil to fight evil. That's how they work. And even in the different levels within the spirit realm, like the lower zone or the umbral, as they call it in Spiritism, where, because it's a law of affinity. When you pass off to this life, you go with others like you. Well, if you were a pickpocket or a small criminal, you'll go with other spirits. And believe me, you'll end up saying, well, I don't like being here. These people are all just like me.
Yeah.
And then that spirit will then go through life after life learning they don't really want to be like that. And
Right.
all of us have been in that lower zone. All of us have been in that pit type area. But that's how the spirit world does cleanse us of evil, is that we experience what we've done.
Right. Yes, it is be careful what you do. I mean, whatever we are, we're resonating out. So if we're bitter and angry and pissed off at the world, that's what people are going to see and feel from us. If we're living in our ego and self-importance, that's what people are going to see of us. If we're living in self-love and a view to choosing to see people in a better light, that is the way we're going to be seen. But that one thing I found very interesting, though, is that you can be in that light, and that's your authenticity. It's where you've chosen to be, but you can be too bright for certain people.
Yes. Yep. You can be. And it's almost painful to them, right? And then in the spirit world,
shedding light on them that they're not ready to receive.
Right.
Yes.
And so we here on our bodies, we're incarnated on Earth. We're given like a diving suit, so it dulls us. But still, we have that power of spirits where everything we think, right? When I always tell people, just don't stop what you're saying bad things. Control your thoughts, because when you're in the spirit world, thought is action. Thought is real.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons we're here, is really controlling our thoughts. And as you were just saying, is you get these feelings, everything. Our thoughts go out to everybody, and everyone's influenced. It's not consciously. Now, some people can, consciously, empaths can really pick that up. But most of us, like me, are dull blades. But somehow subconsciously we pick that up. And when you are loving and kind, like you're saying, people react to that.
Yeah. Yes, and I do find, because I'm a sensitive, an empath, I feel people's emotional discontent, and I feel it all over my body. It's also given a human disease, which is also hypersensitivity. And when other people are in that discord, and you've shed that light on them, even unknowingly, and the reaction to it is, I feel a lot of the time it's they're maybe not ready, but also they don't like what they see when you put that light on them. And now you're asking them to be accountable for their choices, their words, their actions, and they're still in the excuse mode rather than in the accountability mode.
Right. So let's analyze exactly what you just said. And many people could say what you just said is, you're empath, you can see, because you look for visual clues and everything. But Spiritism tells us, no, that's not quite right. There are actually thought patterns that come out that certain people can pick up, and all of us do. But there's actually scientific explanation by the spirit. We just don't understand it yet. Is that you are connecting with other spirits on a spirit to spirit level. You don't need verbal communication. It's under your thoughts. And that person who you're talking about is also receiving that. Now, they may not know they're receiving it, but they have this feeling they're receiving it. Now, that all becomes more real and more tangible as you leave your physical body. But that's what Spiritism tells us. It really starts getting down to explaining these phenomena, right? Like why, what happens when, like, you wake up and oh my heavens, Aunt Mary just died, right? Yeah. And they tell us that, well, Aunt Mary left her body and she went right to her favorite, her niece or nephew, and said, hey, I'm gone. And then you wake up because you hear that, right? It's just so, and but it's real. but that's all for all each one of us to decide if it's real or not. But I'm
Right,
just trying.
let's go down that road because I know you do write about this too, and we've spoken about it as well, and I do a lot of shows on what people call afterlife, and we're just talking ascension. This is just the human vessel that we're driving around in on this planet during this lifetime. But when the spirit leaves, this is purely leaving the vessel. It's not
Right?
a death of us; it's a death of the vessel.
Exactly. We
Right?
are who we are. Yes.
Yeah,
And that's the big secret, right? Is we are who we are when we leave this vessel. You
yeah.
said it perfectly.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, I as a child used to play with dead people, spirits and things around me, and dabbled sometimes a bit too much in my teenage years, and kind of opened the doors to a few that shouldn't have come through. I've had those experiences as well, and I've had plenty of people just come to me when they've passed over, and they just need either direction or just affirming or a message to a loved one. It's not something I can conjure up. It just happens when it's meant to. But it's why do we have such a blockage when it comes to that we still go on, our spirit still goes on? I think because as a human being, we put so much stock just in the physical, what we can touch, what we can taste, what we can hold on to, what we can bank. And then we don't realize that the spirit, as you said, is free will. It's a free energy, a free entity, and it cannot be contained. It borrows this vessel and to
Right.
use and teach from, but it is pure energy. You can't contain energy. It wants to burst out. It's got to go somewhere.
Exactly. And that energy will never go away. But as you said before, when we're in this physical body, it's difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even Socrates said, no one can be wise in the human body. There's 1,000 influences coming all the time. No one can think straight.
No.
It's impossible.
Yeah,
exactly. But that's all part of the learning. That's all part of the class. And what nice, and then as you're talking about what happens in the afterlife, right? And this is what, to me, the big revelation of Spiritism is. And that's when we were talking about the books later, but it's just so interesting. There's this series of books that was by the Reverend G. Val Owen back in the early 1900s. And I've written 3 books on that. And I categorize all of his messages. And they really talk about what is heaven? What is the structure of it? Why do we go through heaven? And, this may be bad news to many of us, as I say, but we always keep learning, right? It's going from one level to the next. It's what does heaven want from us? Well, as we said, be good, kind, wonderful people, but they also want intellectual curiosity.
Yes.
They want you to be interested in something. They want you to be passionate about it. And it's not
evolving.
Exactly. And you can be really smart, or you can be really emotional. But what the spirit world wants us is to have wisdom, which is intelligence with feeling and passion and love, right? With both. And it's a balance we all have to work on. But it's, so heaven, and there's different levels. And you actually go to schools, you go to colleges. And now the great thing in heaven is that as you ascend, you become less matter, more energy. You become more powerful. So here, when you go to college, you get a piece of paper, right? And a little hat with a tassel. In heaven, when you go from one to the other, you actually get more power. You get more tools in your toolkit to plug into the universal cloud. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. And because you read these passages where High Spirit says, well, what's heaven like? Well, heaven isn't the Elysian fields, because if it was, we'd die of boredom. That would be hell. Heaven is more work, but it's work that you love.
Yeah, and I think the same as we have here. We've got some people that go to school to come back to be the teachers, and you have some entities and say, I don't want to rise. I want to go back and help humanity rise. And so this is where we see, a lot of our quote angels and our guides that come in and that choose to pick on someone to help that evolvement, that ascension happening within them. And I think we see a lot of that. The interesting thing is now that we're seeing a lot of entities that were never earthbound, that are stepping into humans and speaking through them the wisdom that we need to hear. And we're actually at that point now where we're far more open to receive that and not go, oh, it's a hoax, it's this or that. It's more hungry, what are you telling us?
And I've been looking at some other ones on YouTube and so forth, and I'm hearing a consistent message. I think you're hearing the same thing. And yes, they don't have to be earthbound. And they can come from anywhere, right? Because it's the speed of thought, not the speed of light that's important. And then also there are also more higher spirits, from what I've heard from the mediums in Brazil and so forth, and Spiritism. They're actually coming and incarnating on Earth to become
Yes.
doctors,
Hmm.
politicians. Doctors who care about their patients, politicians who are honest and try to help people, teachers, and all that. So they're actually coming from other planets to help us get to that next level. So there's a
Yeah.
support group here.
Yes, yes, and for some of us, I was never the earthly person. I know I came from there, and what's been interesting in this lifetime is the awakening of what I used to be, where I came from, because I was, never not. Conceptualized here in Earth. It was just the lifetimes have gone through that, and then kind of realizing the entity that I once was, um, and then being used in this human vessel. I do a show with a Christina Hill called Channeling Ascensions, and she has this entity that speaks through her called Othello, that is never earthbound, that comes and speaks through her. And, Christina was a person that literally was going through the worst trials and tribulations in life, on the street, in drugs, prostituting herself, ended up in an institution, just going down the spiral. And then it was, I can't speak, I can't do anything, I've got this lump in my throat. I don't,
Uh,
and then it was a fella coming out and saying, "You've been chosen." And a lot of people think you have to be righteous and pure for the spirits to choose you. And in my thing, I think they like people who have been broken, that have
well,
gone through the trials and tribulations, because they speak from a different level.
Well, I think you're right, but there's also like another cause. A lot of people who come from other planets, more advanced planets.
Hmm.
So someone like me who comes to Earth, and I've been on Earth before and gone through the chaos and the primitiveness. Being on Earth is okay. I'm used to this, but
Hmm.
like you or that other lady you're talking about we were told this in Spiritist literature, is that when this person comes and incarnates on Earth, they're not used to the cruelty, the hatred,
No.
and
Oh,
that's why many drug
it
addicts
hurts.
and
It hurts.
alcoholics
Yes.
are actually advanced spirits. They
Yes.
cannot take
Deal. Hmm.
they cannot take that. They cannot deal with this.
Right.
And it's on a very subconscious level. It's like, how can all this suffering be? How can
Right.
you abandon children? I
I
mean,
know. I
and
know.
and then
How can you
and,
deliberately hurt someone? Doesn't it hurt you to hurt someone
yeah,
else?
and,
Don't,
and so
how can you
many
do
of
that
these
so callously without any feeling? I can't get it.
so many of these people who have just like God love them, it's gone to the depths of despair is because they just could not take
Yeah,
just the
yeah,
cruelty of this campus on Earth, and
right.
it's tough.
Yeah, because this is the thing is, I've always called myself cosmic child. I'm far more happier traveling in the ether of the universe, and that literally I can't walk barefoot on Earth. The vibration was just too heavy, too thunderous, too when you've got too much bass in something, how it just hurts your body. And just literally walking on the earth was so difficult. I mean, this last few years for me has been, you have to connect with Earth. You have to connect with Earth, because that's the way the matrix and the message is also going to go out. So it's both ends. And I'm a reversed energy. Most people take things from like the top of the tree going out into the roots, and I'm doing it the other way around. Oh no, they go the other way. They pick from the earth and it goes up. But I'm reversed anyway. My energy
Well,
is reversed.
they want to get your souls a little bit tougher, right? So
Yes,
you
yes.
can
Okay, are we tough enough
okay,
now?
I know.
But it is really interesting. And there's a lot of people too who are talking about um, you know, Christ coming back. And the thing is, it's not him per se, because
Yeah.
it is his consciousness awaking within us. And I think it's more than just Christ coming back. I think you're going to see all of the spirits that have gone before, just a download that is going to come. And I've been saying this for the last 6 years, is that the notch of the frequency is going up gradually all the time, higher and higher. As we can take it more as human beings, it's going up more and up more and up more. And I think we're going to suddenly see a crank of the volume,
Well,
where there's going to be a huge download.
I agree. In fact, what I've heard in from different spiritists is that Socrates and Buddha are coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, And I always tell people is, the apocalypse isn't going to be where everyone all of a sudden just disappears, right?
Right, yeah.
Christ never left us. Christ is the governor of our planet and other planets besides. And
Right.
there's other high spirits, same level and higher than
Hmm.
actually he's than Christ. But everyone says we are lucky to have him
Hmm.
as our leader for our planet. And he is so much more than what people think he is.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, he is just, and you read all about in from the Jiva Owen and other books and spiritual literature is when Christ comes, he talks to different spirits, right? He's like a CEO. He'll go to different
Hmm.
groups within the spirit, like who are helping us. Because look, the spirits who are helping us, they get discouraged. Can you believe if you were
Yes.
like a guardian angel? I mean, just like even for me, like, oh my God, I got to work with Brian again. Idiot. I mean, and they need bolstering too. And that's what he has different groups and
Yes.
everything. It's just Christ is always with us and always loving us, and he's got an army of spirits.
Right. And he's waking people up, his disciples, his followers, um the old matrix of people. You need them everywhere. It's everything's, oh, I'm switched on, what's this all about, and this is what's happening with people. Just on a side note, as you talked about the angels, is everybody's nagging at me, Sarah, where's your book? And I'm a blogger, obviously, doing all these interviews, and really there isn't an awful lot of time for me to sit down and do it. And I thought, I don't really want to talk about my life, a bit boring. So it came to me one day. It's going to be, I am my angel's assignment. And
Oh,
my
I love
angel,
that
and
title.
my angel is blogging all the trials and tribulations I take her through. So that's going to be how I'm going to do my book.
Well, that'd be wonderful. I can't wait to read it.
I've got to write it, but yes, that's one of those things. But yeah, I think I'm getting close to it now. But it's interesting because some people do really have their guardian spirits really close. They can really talk to them, and they feel like they're in partnership. I don't know if you remember a book, The Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. They called it The Golden Compass over here.
No, I
It's
don't.
it's a youth book, but I loved it. And one of the reasons I loved it is that the souls were worn on the outside. When you were a child, they would keep taking on different forms of animal. And when you reach puberty, it would then be the animal that defines your soul. And what I loved about it is that you always had your soul to actually dialogue with. That is your compass. That was your consciousness that stopped you from humanly doing something stupid. And I was so envious of this, because how I'd love to kind of have my soul right here going da, 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 and it was just such a wonderful way of looking at it, which Philip Pullman really is a lovely writer when it comes to that. But some people do have their angels that they can talk with. I know mine are constantly standing around me. I'm in the circle. And apparently they're not, it's about them keeping equal energy on me and not anyone actually speaking to me, which is very interesting. But I think this is the thing, is when we step outside of our human knowledge and step into our spiritual knowledge of knowingness, things don't come in a linear form. Things don't come in a nice, neat little parcel, edited and ready for publishing. Things come to you in all sorts of different ways, the messages. As we said at the top of the hour, you've got to go with the flow. And sometimes you go down this path and you think, this is it. No, that was just something you were gathering along the way. Now you've got to continue on the journey down this way. So it is
Exactly.
totally different vibration and knowledge that we're having to read. And it can be hard for people to actually understand it.
It is, and one of the things you can help to understand it is how the spirit world teaches us, and it actually guides the whole earth. Is we're taught in spirals, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a straight line. It's in spirals. So you have the Roman Empire, and then everyone's taken back to the earth, the Dark Ages. Then the Renaissance goes, and they didn't really go backwards. What they did is they created a firmer foundation. And you can look at that throughout the history of Earth, and you can also look at that in your own history or in your own
Yes.
life, where you've done things, and then you were like torn down, but you actually weren't. You actually were. You took the kind of the more weak parts off, and now you're left with a firmer foundation.
Right.
And that's why things, we think, like you said, in a linear way. Well, A, B, C, D. No, it could be A, B, C back to B.
Yeah.
Make B stronger, and it's all that's like one of the books I read was The Problem is the Solution. we have problems, but really those problems given to us are the answer to our prayer.
Yes, yes. We just don't comprehend it because
No,
we're looking for the answer, but really it's the question you need to know.
exactly.
Yeah. Yes, then you will actually get it. And I think this is where, like that knowingness, we call it the gut instinct. When your gut says, I know, but I don't know why I know. And I call that the knowingness, in which I've said before, which from the gut, it goes to the heart and understanding, it goes to the spirit and action, and the mind knows what it needs to know when it needs to know it. And you don't need to question it or justify it or validate it. It just simply is. And the human side of it is always want to go, yes, but. And the spirit side is saying, no, it is. And so what we have to do is make sure we're not fighting with ourselves.
Exactly, and it's tough because and I've discussed, and I think you've discussed too, is so how do you do this? How do you know the right way to go?
Mm-hmm.
And it's I think if you really analyze, you look at the signs and signals, and you see what is some things that are stopping you. You can't just be and not be and just stop at the first obstacle, but there's certain signs. When my wife and I wanted to sell our current house and buy a different house. And we went and we looked house after house. And every time we put a bid on something, someone else had already sold, there was already a bid. Then we said, okay, we're just going to buy land, right? We couldn't even buy a piece of land. Somehow we were funneled into keeping where we are, tear down our house and build another one. Why? I don't know why, but I mean, you could just tell these little things happen.
Yeah.
If there's obstacle after obstacle, then you're being told by the spirit world that's not the path. But if some things that you want to do is it's just open up, people,
Yes.
yeah, I have this, then you kind of know. And if you feel in your gut, and like you're saying, if you feel good in your spirit that, oh yeah, this is right, that's usually a sign that means you're on the right path.
Right. And it's trusting it. Like I've been in transition for the last year, and I knew living on the lower mainland, it was no longer my soil. I don't feel the vibration there anymore. I decided to go to Toronto because I did have a daughter there, and I thought I'll give it a check. And it's got great energy and it's very fast. But my daughter's very wise. Come January, she leaves the country because it's too cold. I'm there in the worst winter they've had in 60 years, thinking, why am I here? This body can't take this cold anymore. So for me, then I came to Victoria here on Vancouver Island and immediately felt the energy. I've been here a lot as a tourist, but coming and moving here, immediately felt the energy. It's something to do with the wind, which I need. I need the wind constantly moving. I love water, the conduit. I love the trees and the rustle and the way they speak to you. And the three of them together, are my energy. And it's I'm still not settled. I'm just in a room waiting for that apartment. Hurry up, please, so that I can have my roots and my sanctuary. So sometimes, like you having to rebuild on your land, is that the land is the right energy for you, and they
Right.
need you to stay there. I've got, where I am, the island is the right energy for me, but where I'm meant to be on this island has not yet been decided.
Right.
And I just hope they hurry up. But that's the thing, is that you can't fight it. You can't fight
No.
it. It can't come any faster. However fast I want it to come, it can't come any faster than what they're going to give me, because what we've got to remember, synchronicity. Other
Yes.
things have to happen elsewhere for it to line up for me to happen. So we've got to understand that there are complexities to the simplicity.
There, absolutely. And we were talking before we started the program. My wife and I received this message back in January. They said, look, certain things are going to happen to you. First of all, just make sure you understand time for you is different than time for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And that you're going to be frustrated and certain things are going to go on. But a lot of this stuff is personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does that mean? We talk about that every day. What does that mean? But it's like, you just need to, like you say, go with the flow, and enjoy the journey, and just, and keep your sense of humor, right? Because we're all just,
Yes. If you don't laugh at it, you're going to go mad.
yeah, you gotta have to laugh at it.
Yes. And chalk everything up to an experience, is like Toronto ended up being for me my blueprint, for my nonprofit organization, and the entire blueprint came together.
Sure.
And I just mapped it all out, and it will happen when it's all the synchronicity. I know it's there, ready for the button to be pushed. I know that the plan is right because they keep giving me that feeling it is right. It's just a question of timing.
Right. And it also could be, it may be that they're just teaching you certain things not to use in this life, but your next life.
Right. Now, this is a this life one.
Right.
This
But
is
I'm just
definitely
as
this
an
one. But
example.
yes, yes. Yes, and I know, some people say, well, I'm not coming back. And I said, no,
Yeah.
I will be coming back, but I won't be coming back with the struggle.
Right.
I'll be
Yeah.
coming back, stepping right into the teaching.
Right.
And, because I've cleared all that out this lifetime. And this is what I say to people. You're going to come back and repeat it until you get it right, until you can ascend. So you may as well do the work in this lifetime, because don't impose it on some other poor bugger that's going to come back with all your garbage.
I hear that all the time. Kids say, I don't want to come back. I said,
Right.
well, look, you're going to come back and right. Be as good as you can, love as much as you can, learn as much as you can. Your next life will be much better.
Yes.
You won't have to go through
Yeah.
it. Exactly. Everyone's going to have some sort of strife because there's things we have to learn. We have to be a well-rounded personality. We have to be a laborer. We have to be poor. We have to be rich. We have to be middle class, whatever. But you are going to come back. You have no say in that.
No, and you get to the point where now you can ascend because you've done your work. You've fulfilled your contract here. Right. And then it is time for your energy to rise onto those higher dimensions that don't need a body or, to learn anymore. I look forward
or you
to
go
that.
to a different level planet.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes. I remember actually, my mum passed away 3 years ago, and she was still bitter about my dad after he'd been dead, or at that point, 40 something years. And I said, don't go with all this resentment in your heart. Don't go with the bitterness. You've got to leave that behind. And my friend, who's a spiritualist, worked with my mum when she crossed over and said, well, yeah, your dad and your mum here, and they're both in soul school.
Yeah, you hear that a lot. Yeah.
And they're getting to sorting things out that they refuse to sort out on earth.
Right.
And then I didn't have that connection with my mum anymore. But then what happened later was, I'm sorry, because of their discord with each other, it reflected obviously on the kids. And so it was an apology for what that reflection was. But it was more to bring them peace. And, if you think you're going to get away with it by dying, I'm sorry, you're not. There is no escape.
No, and as you're talking about dying, also the fact is that if you're like clinging on to someone deathly ill and about ready to go, that's actually also another negative, right?
Yes.
You should be happy for them and say,
Yes.
bless you, because you're also creating kind of negative vibrations. You're tying them to earth,
Yes.
material.
For your selfish reasons, not for them.
Exactly. For your selfish reasons. And you need to let that go and say, I pray that the plan for the spirit world is good for you. Follow the plan. Whatever happens, I'm for that, right?
We want to send them on their journey with peace, not with you bawling your eyes out or saying,
Right.
They need to be tranquil in that ascension. I'm going to give you a lovely story, which I know some of my audience have heard before, but it's apropos to this. Is, my mum was dying and she wanted to go. She was very much in pain. She was 95 and she just couldn't go. And I put a plea out to all my colleagues and friends on Facebook and saying, I need prayers for my mum to cross over, that she can see the angel that will come and get her. And my sister contacted, 24 hours, my mum was gone. But my sister said to me, it was a rainy, miserable day. And then all of a sudden, the sun came through the window, shone down on my mum. My mum opened her eyes and opened her hands, and then was just simply gone.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I really do know that over 100 people sent prayers. And, we think, well, you have to be there physically. No, 100 people's good intentions of love towards my mother was the energy she needed for that angel to break through and take her home. And that's the thing we just don't understand, do we? The power of that loving energy, how utterly impactful it can be.
Exactly. And as you said, and distance means nothing.
Nothing.
Distance means you can be on, like you're saying, these spirits that come and talk to these higher spirits, they could be hundreds of millions of light years away.
Yes.
Our own physical thing.
Yes. They could be 1,000 years old.
Right.
Earth years, right?
Right. Yeah. And and it's really it's thought, right?
Yeah.
Because we are in really on this physical life. We think it's physical, right? It's like the wall behind you, the wall behind me. To us, it's physical, but we really are in a logical construct.
Right.
It's like we're in a video game, and in that character in the video game goes from one stage to the next. In that character thinks it's a long distance, but it's all just programmed, right? And that's why our thoughts actually alter the programming, alter the vibrations around us, and they have immense power. They'll have more power when we pass over, but even in our own physical bodies, they still have power.
Yeah.
Just
You like beam me up, Scotty. We're never going to be able to do it physically, but what you are actually looking is that transcendence of energy. That can be beamed up. And so, I think every single thing that we ever see scientific, and we think it's so far out there, if it could be thought of to be created in a movie, that it's going to be something that can actually happen down the road, if it's not already happening. Right.
And those thoughts come to us.
Yes.
On the inspiration by the Spirit world to prepare us for these things.
Yes.
And the Spirit, a lot of times they'll talk to us about here as spirits, for they call it personalities. We're personalities, and it's a really good word, because it denotes that it's not that we're this physical person, but we're this kind of this software, you could say, and then we each have kind of create this personality, good and bad, good attributes, bad attributes, and it grows, right? It grows and grows, and that's really where we are. And this personality is energy, and we go anywhere. It's like, and then we can also go into other bodies, and we can go to other bodies, other planets. Our body, who knows what we were in a past life? We could be male, female. We could be a different alien, right? All sorts of things. But our personality is within it.
Yes. It's the signature of our core beingness, and that can then go into any vessel. And I know somewhere along the line I was a male executioner. There's all sorts of little lifetimes that have come flashing back. But for us to still be thinking in this day and age, let's just simply take something like this, the old cell phone, right? Now, 30 years ago, we were using things that were like a brick like this for a phone, and it was just a phone, no texting, nothing. Now this is a mini computer, and you can even get one on your watch, that. If you said to people, 30, 40 years ago, you're going to be carrying a computer around on your wrist, and it's going to be able to do this, that, etc., you're loopy, man. It's never going to happen, right? But just the technological advancements that we've made, I think, is also kind of preparing us for what is coming, because I think the spiritual and the technical is what's going to be our advancement.
Right. And also what Chico Xavier, the great Brazilian medium, said, that the lower levels of heaven, that they're about 50 to 100 years ahead of us. And so when back in the early 1930s, when he talked to his mother who had passed away, she was talking about they used communication devices. They were using cell phones then. And they were talking about, and then Jiva Owen's mother back in 1910, she was saying, we're using these things, we're using, it shouldn't call them communication devices, but something like that, right? But they weren't, she could have said typewriters, but she didn't, right? They were, so they were always ahead of us. That way, when we come here, we think of these things.
Well, that's the thing is that if you think it, you can make it happen. Right. And the whole, it's like, look at Nikola Tesla. What is it, 120, 130 years ago, his innovations, and they're only now beginning to be really understood, the impact of how to use them. But, the thing is, we need to be intelligent enough to understand what is being downloaded, what we're receiving, to know how to put it together. But you ask any of these people, even some of the best CEOs in the world, Richard Branson and everything else, they are instinctual people. They allow the intuitive knowledge to come in, and then in that knowingness, know how to use it, because they're wired for that, right? When you ask them, how go backwards, there was a movie on a famous mathematician who had the answers to a very complex thing, and they made him go back and dissect everything to how he got to that answer. And he found it so difficult to do that because he just knew the answer. Right.
And a lot of that is spirits around us giving an inspiration.
Yeah.
when people sleep, they wander the spirit world,
Right.
and they'll go up there and they'll actually be shown things. Right there was,
Yes.
they'll discuss it. There's a story of in the book I've written from the Reverend G. Owen, and this young man wanted to say, I don't understand prophecy. How can people know the future? Well, he was taken in a dream, and he was shown a kind of like a film, because in the spirit world you see past, present, future, right? It's
All at
there's no
once.
time
Yeah.
all at once, and to us, our we can't really figure it out. But
Compute. Yeah.
he was shown part of the future, and then he woke up and he really didn't remember what he was done. But then he saw a poster, and he saw a picture of a man he recognized. And he says, "Oh," he goes, that's like a nobleman and his retinue is going to come through town in a week from now. And of course, then it was true, because he was shown that, and he understood that when you dream, when you go into that fourth dimension, your brain gets really addled, right? And
Yeah.
you see certain things. That's why I tell people when they think about dreams, is think about your emotions. If your emotions are good, that's probably pretty true. But the symbology could be different for everybody, because
Right.
it's how well or how not well that you're able to interpret, the four dimensions into three.
Yeah.
It's like Socrates, not Socrates, Plato's uh, allegory of the cave, right, where they had these people that were in the cave. They were shackled to the ground, and all they could see is the shadow on the walls. They could just see two dimensions. One of them escaped, and he went to the real world. And, oh, there's three dimensions. He came back to the cave, and of course, they all thought he was crazy, and they killed him.
Right.
And
Yes.
Socrates was telling, Plato was telling us through Socrates, is this is what the difference is between life here and in the spirit world. There's so much more
Yeah.
to it.
Yes. Yes, and I've known a number of people, interviewed them, who are conduit writers, and showing us totally different worlds and knowledge. And it's just knowledge that we're ready to hear, but coming through somebody. They're the catalyst, the person, the vehicle in which to bring it. I have another friend who's been working with Pascal on fractals
Yeah.
for years now, since he was 8, and talks to other, because when an entity does crossover, a person does crossover, and they've got unfinished business, they just carry on teaching. They just carry
Yeah.
on. They channel that person that's ready to receive with that open channel, and knows that they can give that person that knowledge to finish the work or take it to another level. You're right.
Exactly. That brings us to what we were first talking about. Why you invited me with those spiritual contracts, because in that message from the Spirit of Ranio, they say as we get ready for our life, we will be talking with teachers. Like, so that person who's been working with Pascal probably worked with Pascal
Yeah.
before he or she was physically born.
Right. Yes.
And
Yes. Yeah.
and so there's all this preparation we have even before we're born to go through this thing.
Yeah.
And that enables us to open up and then communicate with that, our other people, other mentors, other spirit mentors, and also probably some physical mentors that come that somehow connected with. That's why it's such a rich tapestry that's set for us. It's amazing.
Yes, I had a woman on a little while ago, who is a medium, a psychic, and Wayne Dyer came to her. And he said, I've always been speaking to the I am, for us to step into my I am. He said, now I've crossed over. I understand it's we are. And
Right.
I've just found myself completely following that sentence. Says our responsibility is to become the I am so we can be a part of the we are.
Yeah.
And back to my metaphor of a musical instrument, we're given that gift of that instrument. We learn to play it so we can join the orchestra in harmony and in sync, so that we can be a symphony that resonates an invitation out to others.
Yes. And it's easy for you and I to say that, and we believe it. It's just so hard to put in practice, and it takes daily practice. And
Yes.
it really takes every time you think something that's negative, or you want to gossip about somebody or something like that, you go, no, stop.
Yeah.
No, don't say that thing negative. When I go to work, right, I'm still working, and then you know how you stand around and you say, well, that person doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
And sometimes I just get
Catch
mad
yourself.
at myself. I just get myself, no, say something nice. That person really does really well. It's just if you can do that and get those habits in your daily life, that's really how you start to achieve what you just. right?
Yeah.
It's those
It's, you know,
little steps.
it's the boundary you set on yourself, right? You know, that boundary that of where you're going to go with your energy. You make sure you don't lower it. But it's also a boundary that you put on yourself of a vibration that you wish to communicate in.
Yeah,
And, you know, I recently had an altercation with someone where um, the person went a little ballistic on me because of needing to be in control. And unfortunately for someone like me with the sensitivity, it really kind of, you know,
right,
it gets in there. So I have to put up the old energy blockages in order to kind of protect. And then it's considered an offense because suddenly my energy signature has changed. But
right,
there isn't still the realization of the action you took to change it. Suddenly, because I've changed the energy, there's something wrong with me. And I think this is what people need to understand. When people react to you, and the reaction is maybe even off silence or withdrawing, it's not for you to come and attack them. It's
right,
because it's something you've done that you need to now understand, what did I do to change the energy signature?
right.
And I think this is something we need to be more in tune. You know, I say step into your emotions, but don't become emotional.
Very true. Yep. And understand where other people are coming from.
Yeah.
Other people all have fears. They all have
Yes.
worries,
Yes.
insecurities.
Yes.
And you've read these things, on other people's like near-death experiences
Oh,
where
yeah.
people have had, they go through their past experiences and not only do they see what they were thinking, but they see what the other people were thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it helps them understand that, we all want to be loved. We all, most of us are trying to do our best.
Right.
And you just have to let a lot of things slide. And just like you
Yeah.
say, just, keep your energy level.
Yes. Yes, and you have to protect yourself if with your energy. You don't send out any angst, you don't send out any hate or anything else. But it's also, I think, if you are coming across this in your life and you're noticing somebody's energy's changed around you, it is why. Don't just immediately go on the blame thing. It's like if somebody's changed an energy around you, there has to be a reason to it. And I think one of the things we do is that it's so busy and everybody else's fault. We don't turn the eyes in on ourselves and what did we do? And,
Right.
perhaps what I did was an offensive energy. Because if this person is normally this in the energy and suddenly withdrawn, what caused that?
Right.
And,
And
you know,
yeah, you just laid out what we should actually do every day as a habit in order to
mm-hmm,
improve. That is, analyze what we've done, what
mm-hmm,
we've done right and wrong, and then as soon as we think we're losing control of ourselves, get back in control. Try to understand the other person's point of view,
yeah,
and not think bad things about other people.
right, yes.
And,
You
and
know
I
that,
tell you, oh, I'm sorry, just real quick. And I tell you, this has taken me years and
yes,
years to even get decent at this.
yeah.
I mean, this is not easy.
No, it's not easy because, you are guarding your own spiritual energy. Because I know how much outside vibration I can take, and I know how it affects my body. So automatically, my energy is going to go into its own protection mode to protect me from that. And I understand where this person is coming from, is where they're at. They still need to be in control, and they haven't yet learned we have no control. The only
Right.
control we have is to go with the flow, right?
Right.
And
And what's the end result of this for you? You're less stressed, right?
yes, yes,
Your life,
exactly.
your life is so much happier.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, now look, you and I could be considered probably failures in the outside world, right? We
Oh, I
don't
am.
have,
I
but
haven't got a big
that,
bank account, so who am
right,
I? I don't have, a huge amount of MBAs, the DDAs, or any X around me. So
right.
what
But we're,
authority do I have? Yeah.
but generally we're happy, we're
Yes.
pleased, we
Yes.
look for the good things in life,
Right.
and really that's what are you going to take with you when you pass away?
Right. Right.
You're not going to take your bank account.
No. No. And the thing is when you do step into your own authenticity, when you do come aligned with your spirit, it is you realize what a beautiful gift it is to the vessel,
Yes.
to the consciousness, to everything you do in life, and you do it from that place of love, of caring, of kindness, and you will make sure that you are around the right people that will honor that. You do change the people around you. You can't be amongst the hatred and be in a space of love.
Right.
Right?
And
You can be with other people with love and put that love on the people who are hating. Send
right,
them the good vibrations, but you on your own, if you're around that hatred, you can't be there, because it's very hard to be in the purity of love amongst that anger and angst of hate.
right. But when you are in that purity of love, and there's actually been studies of this, people who are more spiritual are healthier, right? They live longer. And
Something got missing with me.
that's probably pre-planned. But on general, they are healthier because what hurts your body more than anything else? It's stress, it's anxiety,
Yes, yes,
and when you're like you and me, where we just say, oh, yeah, this happened to me, and I'm not gonna, I'm gonna all learn from it. I'm not gonna stress over it.
right, right.
Um, it's so liberating. I cannot. It's hard to convey to people how liberating it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. And when I'm completely and utterly in that zone, I do have that, as an empath, that sensitivity though, where I do pick up, other people's things. And
Right.
it's sometimes just kind of, it knocks me over sometimes, because I think that I'm okay, protected, and I'm fine, and then suddenly something will happen and go, there goes the
Yeah.
guts. So it's the balance all the time, and I'm just probably more hypersensitive than most people, but
That's
it's
probably true. Like I'm lucky. I'm more of a dull blade, right? Nothing gets through. So
no, no. I've got some sharp ones here, but yeah, no, it's sometimes I have to simply not watch the news, not look at anything. I have to just watch YouTube funny things and happy things and animals being rescued and something fun, because I have to do something that feeds my spirit.
but
Otherwise,
I, I think you just gave the best advice. Our whole discussion is, look, and I tell people, oh, I'm worried about this. Stop watching the news. The news is there
yes,
to make you worried and anxious, so you watch more news. I
yes,
mean,
yes.
you're
Fear
not.
cells, right? Fear cells.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Fear sells, and I do. I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm trying to turn off the news. I'll
Hmm.
read books. I'll look at YouTube videos. Right. I love the travel logs or
Hmm.
the HGTV. The house shows or something like that. And
Yes, I
yeah,
love those too. Yeah, the renovating, creating something
renovating.
old
Yes.
into new. Yes,
Yep.
creativity, and I
So
love
I mean,
watching the shows where you're taking people on a talent show. Never knew they were that good, and suddenly,
right,
yeah, they're discovered. And yeah, there's so much we could focus in on our happiness. And the way I get any form of news, like obviously on Facebook, it comes up now and again. But if I'm going to watch anything, I'd rather watch something like the Daily Show, where the only way you can watch it is with a huge dose of laughter.
yeah, some humor. Yeah.
Right? Because it's the only way. You have to laugh at it, otherwise you can go
Right.
insane. So um, I think we have to gauge our own sensitivity and know how thick-skinned are we. And then we also have to question, well, if you can watch all of this and not be affected, perhaps are you too thick-skinned, that you're getting stepping on the side of not caring, and perhaps you should care a little more. So I
Yeah.
think the whole thing is balance, isn't it?
Right. I mean, look, you're right. We're all connected. We all have to be a good citizen. We have to vote for the person we think that has the good of the whole involved.
Humanity, yes.
Humanity. It's a better
Yeah.
way of saying it. And so we are all well connected, but we can't get too emotionally
No.
involved. We do have to stay on that 10,000-foot level and
Yes.
look down and see that this is a long trek. This is the whole civilization of the entire planet advancing. It's not
Mm,
going to be smooth. It's not going to be
no.
done here. It's not going to be
No.
done in the next 100 years.
No. No, but what we are seeing is what I call the tide is turning. I can see it, in 6 years of doing these shows, um, 2,000 shows. I've done over 1,000 myself. And looking at the people that I've interviewed, and, also coming back, how we're just seeing each time another level, another level, another level.
Yeah.
And, the stories of people who have had the cosmic 2x4, literally that everything was taken from them. Really a point where if they gave up and died, you wouldn't blame them, for what
Right.
they've gone through, but they chose to go through it, learn from it, and because of it, step into their meaningful purpose and now be in service to humanity. And I don't think there's any greater gift than the wisdom from somebody who's taken the journey, that truly from their heart and soul can share with you, can empathize with you, and can show you a way through your journey in life. I think it's one of the greatest gifts that you can give.
Exactly. No, I totally agree with you.
There's some awesome people in the world, isn't there? We incline not to see it because media doesn't cover it, but it's simple things. People swimming in ice to go and rescue a dog.
Yeah.
A guy going through this mud thing for hours to rescue a bird. And when
Well,
you look
Doctors
at things,
Without Borders going to, places
yes,
where Ebola is.
yes,
I, you
yeah,
know, can I do
yes,
that? I doubt
yes.
it. I mean, but they're much superior than I am. I mean, they're wonderful
Yeah,
people.
and the thing is that we've also got to remember that even a simple thing like a smile, you're going for coffee, someone's having a hard day behind the counter, just how you doing, love? Giving a smile, like caring. We have no idea those tiny little things of consideration and kindness, or how big an impact it has on the other person.
Well, and again, you'll hear this over and over again from spirits. It's like, don't worry about giving money.
Hmm.
You don't have to give money. Give your time and a shoulder, right?
Yes.
Give comfort, give advice. Be there for somebody.
Yeah.
That is so much more important than anything else, right?
Yeah. And
Actually,
sometimes that
giving money is
hug.
too easy. That's just like
Yeah.
this is where sometimes I disagree with too much of the government involvement, because it's like you let the government do everything for everybody. Nah, that shouldn't
No,
be
no. I believe in community doing it. And one of the things with my fund, my thing is that I will be raising money, and that money will then pay for the services from the people I've interviewed, the coaches, the healers, the this, the that, for people who can't afford it, that don't need a handout. They need a hand up to
right.
get back on their feet, and so that they can then go through their process and become that beautiful, productive person. And I think everybody needs that. Sometimes somebody just all they need is a hug,
Yes,
and even your spiritual people. I'm highly spiritual. I miss my dog because my dog knew when I needed a hug.
right.
Those paws around you, there, those arms you could put around that pure, beautiful, divine, loyal love, that with no agendas than just loving you. And I think that's the reason why I think the animal kingdom at the present moment is teaching us how to be better human beings.
I agree with you. In fact, there's a story of Chico Xavier, the Brazilian medium. He was sitting next to a woman. She had a little dog on her lap, and he says, "You know how long you've had that dog?" And she goes, "Oh, 2 or 3 years." He goes, "No, no, you've had that dog for 500 years.
Hmm.
That dog has come back in life after life to be with you."
Yeah.
And there's those special things, and
Yes.
they'll follow you even with different planets, different
Yeah.
different levels of heaven. I mean,
Yes, I want mine to come back. Though I'm not sure I'm
is
ready
that
for another
selfish?
dog, but yeah, yeah, no, I'm being selfish. But I can actually still feel her spirit. It's 2 years in
I'm sure.
August, and I can still feel it. And that little that certain look that they give you. That when the eyes just look right into the soul of
Yeah,
you and say, "It's okay, it's
yeah,
okay." And this is the beauty of animals, and to see animals with different species and being loving and kind when they're not meant to be. They're meant to be enemies and they're not.
right.
Again, it's a lesson. Why are we? We have such ability to evolve, to learn. We are so utterly creative. We're exceptional human beings if we stepped into it. And I think this is the invitation right now. Well, everything that we see is wrong is inviting you to choose what is right and step into it. Step into it, be responsible for it, make a decision that you are going to commit to it. You're not just doing it for show.
And there's nothing stopping you. And
Nothing.
the other thing is that say is, we say everyone's equal here on our physical body and life. Well, and we know that's, we're equal under the law, but we know that's not true. Like, I'm never going to be a great basketball player or whatever. But as a spirit, you really are equal. You may not be at the same level, but you have all the capacity as anyone else has.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing, there should be nothing, there's no excuse holding yourself back. This is
Right.
just, you're just here in this temporary body to learn as much as you can, improve yourself, and you're going to go back to that perfect vessel that's capable of being at an extremely high level to create planets, to create life, all
Mhm.
of that.
Right. Discover what your instrument is. It's each one of us is given a different instrument. We're not all meant to be, violins.
Right?
And what is your gift? Don't measure your gift along with someone else's. This is your gift. However big or small, it's important. Step into it. Be it. And don't deny the world of it, and don't deny yourself of it.
Exactly, and that's where you have to learn to resist this
Mm,
consumerism, this propaganda,
yeah,
and let that fly off you
yeah.
and resist it because it wants you to be like everybody else. It wants you to work. The society wants you to work as hard as possible so you can spend money and make other people richer. And like you said, forget that, right?
Yeah, you are just going to be a slave to your own debt. This
Right,
image that you've created that you feel is important, that defines you, and that shows everybody you've made it. Look at your mortgage. Look at the fact that you're working longer to pay for it. The taxes are more. You're feeling you're around these superficial people with their big shiny houses, and you're going, I feel so poor.
right. And they call that parking, right?
Mm,
You come in life after life, you're just parking.
yeah,
You're
no,
not making advancement.
right.
And really, it's worth, and we're told over and over again, you're rewarded 100 times whatever you sacrifice. It's worth the sacrifice to really start doing exactly what you said, teaching yourself to be kind. Keep
Mm,
teaching yourself not to let negative emotions go through.
yeah,
That is going to give you a reward that you will not believe when you
right,
pass.
right. As they find something to believe in, act on it, and then commit to that action,
Right.
right? Because
Yeah.
the human side of us wants to play it safe, wants to be me, myself, and I. And as long as I'm all right, Jack, where the spiritual side of it is about you becoming the we, about sharing your gifts, about embracing and receiving. It is about us. And I think this is the battle that we have between our spiritual and human selves. And if we stop resisting
Right.
and step into that beautiful spirit and the feeling and the love and the abundance that you will feel there, you will actually understand. But it's,
Exactly. And if you want to help that goal, is I recommend that people take one night a week, 7 to 7:30, meditate and pray. And then if you stay that same time, the spirits will know you're there and they
yes.
will come and send you help. If you become in a regular habit,
Mhm.
right, is and then just start let your mind free, see what comes, right? And
Right.
you will start learning how to see the signs and signals to know how to be guided, and you will be helped.
Yes.
The spirit world is like a teacher who sees a student who really even though they're not doing well, but they want to do well,
Yeah.
they will give them extra help. There's no difference from us.
Right. I know. What did they say? When the student is ready, the teacher will come.
Right.
And it's not for us to dictate how they're going to come or where they're going to come. And as you say, a repetitive routine in some ways. It might be a walk in nature. It might. I've just done a show on dragon boating. Whatever it is that gets you into the zone where you
Right.
can open up your channels when you've taken off. The earthly thoughts, and you're in that space where you can receive. That
Mm-hmm.
is the place that you need to get to in whatever way you do it. Not drugs, please, in
Right.
whichever way you need to do it.
Right.
And then you've opened up your channels and you are allowing in trust, in faith, for that knowledge to come to you. And it knows you're open at that time and you are in free will ready to receive. So
Yep.
just find out whatever your pattern is and then open up those gates. You'll be surprised what you get.
Yeah. It's simple. It's hard
Yeah.
to do.
All right, my love. How do people find all your books? List off the titles, where they can get them, how they can find you and your YouTube.
Oh, so basically, if you go to my blog site, www.northwestspiritism.com, you will see on the left hand side, you'll see all my books. Here's one of my books, Heaven and Below. You can get that on Amazon. It's one of three books all about spiritism, how the heaven and below, there's spirit and spirit universe, and how we are guided by spirits. It's all these categories of information sent to Reverend G. Bowen, and then also um, I also put in other information from other spiritist writers like Chico Xavier, Devaldo Franco, Allan Kardec, and it's telling us how heaven works,
Yeah.
how we are guided, what we do when we're in the different levels of heaven. What are the different levels of heaven? What are the lower zone? What's the deep abyss? It's really telling us why we're on Earth. It's giving you a good explanation, and it's telling you, it's really giving you the answer of we're here free will. Why free will? That's why bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. It's all part. There's a reason for it. It's a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you can go to my blog site nwspiritism.com. I have my books are on Amazon. They're on Kindle. So you can, and I also have a book called Spiritism 101, the Third Revelation. You can go to my Facebook sites, Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us, and you actually download that Spiritism book for free. It's on PDF. And all the rest is on Kindle. It's 99 cents. So I try to make it as inexpensive as possible. So all I'm trying to do is in the message has been around since 1850. It's codified by Allan Kardec with the help of many high spirits. And I think what it does is it gives you an understanding of your place on earth. And it makes you, the more you read and study, is the more you understand why things happen to you, good and bad. They're all for a purpose. And don't be nervous about it. You're going to be victorious. Just have a good attitude. And I think if the things you were just talking about is, do that meditation or whatever you want on that regular basis and just try your best, you'll be victorious.
Right. And your YouTube?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. There's a link on that from my blog. It's NW Spiritism YouTube channel. I have lots of I have a Sunday show on Kardec Radio. I do, and it's about an hour, and I take one subject, and then I post that on YouTube also, as well as stream on Facebook. So I have lots of videos on my YouTube. I also have a lot like the one you saw when you talked to me, like spiritual contracts, 4 to 6 minute videos. We're just kind of giving you here's
a taste.
A little taste, right? Spiritual contract. Why are we born? Why we must go through spiritual, through multiple lives, right? Those type of things. And just get the information out there, make people, just give them, all. Look, you and I know we're the same. We don't go on street corners and say, "Hey, you need to listen to us," or the world's going to end. We just put stuff on the ground for you, right? We put the book on the bookshelf. It's there. We tell you about the book. If you want it, fine. If not, that's up to you, right? It will come at the right moment for you.
Right. I'm here. I call it the Orchard of Wisdom Library, ready for clicking.
Right.
And there's many people that discover a show that was done years ago because they're ready to hear it. And the thing is that I ask people, no, I'm not a 15-minute show. We've gone way over that. And the point is, I'm a content show. I'm here for you to learn. This is a tutorial that we're going through in this conversation of learning and wisdom and tools and knowledge that we can take forward with us. And I respect the people that I interview because it's been their life journey to bring you that wisdom. And I think this is something that we also need to remember, that when we do learn from other people, to show gratitude for that knowledge and respect that it took them their lifetime to get to that knowledge that they're imparting to you. It wasn't just a Google quick app or a Siri, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So it's, and we need to respect that a lot more. And
thank you for all you're doing. I mean, just outreaching and your show and everything. It helps. I mean, the more we can get people to understand what they're going through, hopefully we can help the world.
Right. There is an answer to everything. You just got to ask the right question. Right. And that's the point. And you will find the show, just like when I go into a bookstore, I find a book that is saying, you got to read me. And for me, it's I know I've got 2,000 shows, but I've got a lot of genres there. Which topic do you want to listen to? And just go in like a library and let something jump out at you, because that's what you need to know right now. And sit back, glass of wine, cup of coffee, feet up, or go for a walk, listen to it on your headphones and hear the wisdom. Oh, and now watch us on YouTube, because we're now here too. So, okay, well, thank you so much, Brian. I'm so glad to have you back on again, and I know you're going to be back again in the future.
Whenever you need me, I'm here.
That was wonderful, and it's lovely to talk to someone who really is immersed in it, and no barriers, and truly living in the spirit, because what we're talking about, there is nothing far-fetched or too high or too this. It's just as it is. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, everybody has their own journey.
Yeah, exactly. And no journey, nothing is far-fetched, folks. I think that's one of the things. Far-fetched is the earthly limitation.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And if you are willing to go to the extraordinary and the extraordinary, then you will actually understand that our limitation is what we put upon ourselves, that we've scratched the surface, the only surface.
See, now you're leading to another hour of discussion.
I know. You're coming back. Maybe have you back with someone else. We'll have a three-way conversation.
There you go.
It'll be fun. Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Brian.
Well, thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Until next time, folks.
Yes.
Bye for now. For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.